back to the Noise Filter podcast. This week we have Aaron Douglas. How are you doing, Aaron? You alright?
I'm not too bad, thanks. How are you?
Very well, thank you. So for those people that don't know, could you describe what you do and what sort of sound you guys make?
I guess I'm a singer-songwriter. I guess is the large pigeonhole that I fit in. It's I think I'd describe it as melodramatic rock. Really, it's just like I think about something which has affected how I think in some sort of way, and I blow it up into massive proportions and make a big ballad about it usually. So that's usually how it goes. Yeah. I got described as haze folk the other day.
Okay, I've never heard of that.
Neither have I.
Sounds
So I'm taking it. I'm just like, right, no one's got that one.
Own it.
That's my unique selling point. So whatever is a USP.
So how long have you've I've known you for like probably since I was 21, so 14 years.
Oh,
I think the first time I met you was my 21st birthday, which was you guys were playing support for Martin Harley.
all right. Was that
In
right?
The
Or was it...
the Cooperage.
Oh,
I think this is a really long time ago. So
right, yeah.
So you've been playing music for a long. I've known you playing music for a long time.
Yeah.
Prior to that, you've been like in Alvin Azar and that'd been
Yeah.
working for a little while.
Yeah, it's been. I mean, I've been playing music since. I mean, fully probably since I was like 17, maybe 18.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 17 is when I started playing guitar. Because before I was playing keyboards and stuff like that, but not properly. I was just sort of noodling around in my room, making up sort of rubbish songs with the demo key, basically, and changing keys and stuff. But then, yeah, I started playing guitar. I think it was 16 or 17, and that's been fairly solid up until after college. I think I had like a couple of years out before I went to university. Well, before I moved to Plymouth and went to university.
Yeah.
I kind of wasn't really doing much music stuff. I was trying to sort of work out what I was going to do with my life. So they went to university, whereas I still didn't know what I was going to do with my life. So I was just going to go to university for a bit. Again, music was part of it, but I wasn't really doing a massive amount. I was writing little bits and bobs. Then I joined a band called Freerider, and we were doing a little bit more with that. I was just playing lead guitar mostly.
Yeah.
And then I met Ben and Al as Freerider was kind of coming to an end. I met Ben and Al, and then that's when I got an acoustic guitar, because I'd always had electrics at that point. Got an acoustic guitar and started sort of trying to write more songs. I think I kind of just started when I met Ben and Al, and then that sort of friendship, and then eventually the band sort of formed, being a bit more serious about it.
Yeah.
So I think it was always something I was doing, and it would have been liked to have done it seriously, but never kind of actually did it until Alvin Azar, really. So yeah, it's been a long time. And I remember like one of my first ever memories of anything musical is having a go on a glockenspiel in school, and I can't have been older than about 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Just being like, this sounds amazing. And just sitting there, just noodling out tunes and stuff like that. And I think that was the first moment where it's just like, right, this is going to be important to me at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, right. So, what sort of things influenced you early on? What initially got your music journey going?
Oasis, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Oasis and the whole Britpop thing started it, because I guess I just started playing guitar around about the time. I think it might have been just before, maybe a couple of months before Morning Glory came out.
Yeah.
Or maybe earlier than that, because I remember sort of anticipating it, going, "Ooh, can't wait for this to come out." So I just started playing guitar, and it was kind of, I didn't know what to listen to, because up until that point, I think most of the music I'd been listening to had been kind of sort of 90s, like Prodigy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Prodigy, and then the opposite end of the scale, a lot of New Jack Swing, like, lots of Bobby Brown and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was listening to all that kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden guitar became a thing, and I was just like, okay, I need to find some guitar stuff to listen to. And all my mates were listening to, they were all like listening to Stone Roses and Oasis and all that kind of stuff. So I started listening to all that, and then eventually it got around to Radiohead. I think Radiohead were probably the Bends. Basically, the Bends was like my soundtrack to my college, basically. And that album for me is still up there as one of my all-time favourites. Even more so than OK Computer, I think, but purely simply because it is like we're talking about time.
Yeah.
Like the Bends is a stamp on a time.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a happy time for me, but it was that was the time where I was discovering playing music and trying to listen to as many bands as I could, and getting up on stage in front of people and all that kind of stuff. So it was all synonymous with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel safe by them.
I think OK Computer did that for me a little bit. It's like just for some reason that album just like it just punctuated a time in my life that just like every time I listen to it, it really kind of makes me feel like that. I don't
Nostalgic.
Yeah, it's really strange, isn't it? It's really strange.
Yeah.
Radiohead were massively significant for my little journey. And I think even like I can remember getting Definitely Maybe on tape and like like banging through that in the car as a little youth.
Yeah.
So do you feel like those influences? I mean, probably I don't know. Do you feel like they still influence you now? Is that still something that like kind of has a big part of how your songwriting is now? Or
I don't. Probably. Definitely the Radiohead thing. Because I think something that I always used to notice about sort of Radiohead songs is they always had a big chorus.
Yeah.
Like I always liked the choruses were always quite kind of thing. And that's, I think, a big part of my songwriting is everything is always based around the chorus. Like I've written songs before where I've written the chorus and gone, that's amazing. Then I've written the verse and gone, meh. The chorus is good enough. I'll keep it just because the chorus is good enough to carry. I don't want to worry about it. It's so I think choruses are still fairly important to me. I like hearing a good, like, rousing chorus or something like that. So I think I still write in that respect. For me, the chorus is super important. I don't know about the other things, because it's always quite difficult to step back from what you do and notice what you've nicked from other people.
Yeah.
Subconsciously or otherwise. I've been having a lot of people coming up to me sort of saying that I sound like Dallas Green from City and Colour, and I'd never heard of him, so I went and listened to it to see, like, whether I mean, songwriting, I don't think we're that similar. Like he's a bit more, well, his genres are a bit more wide, I think. Like sometimes he's a bit country.
Yeah.
He used to be in Alexis on Fire, so he's quite heavy. Like, but his actual stuff tends to be, even his heavier stuff in City and Colour is still relatively soft. But there's some mannerisms in his vocals that I'm like, okay, maybe I do that sometimes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I sound like him because I think his voice is ridiculous.
I don't know who this guy is, to be honest. Sorry.
He's he used to be in a band called Alexis on Fire. Now he's kind of got his solo project called City and Colour.
Yeah.
And some of it's quite good. There's a few. He's got a couple of good tunes, I think. But yeah, I don't fully see the similarities of what people are kind of saying, but enough people have said it.
Yeah.
That I'm kind of like, well, this isn't, one of those things where someone comes and says, oh, you look like so and so. No, I don't. I definitely don't. Like, this is kind of like, okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'll take that compliment because he does have a ridiculous voice. I don't think I sound like him. Like, there's mannerisms. It's more in the way he moves between notes. I can go, okay, that I do that a bit.
Yeah. People want to stick music into boxes, don't they, all the time?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's human nature, isn't it? We always do it. It's how we understand anything, isn't it?
Yeah. That's how you understand things, is you put it next to something and go, oh, that's a bit like this.
It's a bit like this, yeah. And then when you get enough of those, you can get you can sort of start thinning it down to these even more niche little things, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
we like before we came on, we were talking about writer's block, and that kind of comes on from what you were just talking about. And I think for me, writer's block is Satan, and I
Yeah.
and like I just can't understand how to move past it. But a lot of the stuff you were saying, like before we came on, was like actually really really good, and I think I kind of agree with like this kind of. You've got to allow the bar. Well, you go. You feel free to say it, 'cause I will only bastardize what you said beautifully.
Yeah, I think it's for me, like last year, especially, like I had last year I really I don't want to say struggled mentally, but like I found last year really difficult musically. I did like the gigs we did, like I can count on one hand the ones that I super enjoyed. I mean, I didn't gig that much last year because we were kind of rehearsing the band up and trying to do that, and I kind of focused on that so much that I didn't bother playing solo. So musically, I kind of felt a little bit felt quite lost last year, and trying to write for me was kind of like I feel musically lost, so therefore surely I should be I should be able to tap into this and write something. And the longer that didn't happen, the more annoyed I was getting at myself.
Yeah.
And I think something that I was talking with a friend last night actually about how the world has changed because of like social media and stuff. And it's so easy to compare yourself to someone else. Like literally, you could pick up your phone, go on Facebook, and immediately start comparing your life to someone else's.
Yeah.
And I think all that kind of stuff, like you're seeing, like friends getting signed or friends going off and doing things and stuff, and you're happy for them and stuff like that. But then there's this tiny part in the back of your brain out going, why aren't I doing anything? What's going on here? Well, maybe I'm just not very good, and like struggling with that, and then not being able to write a song, because I know for a fact that if I ever feel a bit rubbish, if I write a song, I'll be on, and I like it.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. I have to like the song I've written. I'll be on cloud nine for at least a week. I'll be just like, I wrote this song and I think it's really good. I'm really happy with it, and you're just buzzing for a week. So I was constantly sort of like, if I can do that, I'll feel better, and not being able to achieve it is just hell.
Yeah.
So what I've fast realised is that it's so easy to constantly put pressure on yourself to achieve these goals that either you've set or you've seen someone else do something like that. So then you've set it subconsciously because you're like, well, so and so's doing that. Well, I could do that, and whatever. And it's all these things you're constantly putting yourself in this race you don't need to be in. So taking it baby steps at a time and saying, okay, instead of saying today I'm going to write a song, today I'm going to write a verse, or I'm going to write 3 chords. I'm going to find 3 chords that fit together nicely, and then just take it bit by bit, slowly do it. So you're not fighting yourself, because it's super easy to just let your brain, especially my brain, to just go, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
That's not very good. And if you look at it in this whole big picture, like you never get to finish it. Obviously, it's good to see the picture and be like, right, that's what I want to achieve. Let's start with this small building block and then build it up slowly.
Yeah.
Find that doing things in that fashion, so like even the point where you're just saying, right, I'm going to write a verse today and it might suck, but at least I'm going to finish it.
Yeah.
And then once you've finished it, you can say, that was rubbish, next one. Like, and not beat yourself up about the fact that you've written something rubbish. You should be happy about the fact you've just written something, like, and then just build it up, and then eventually some sort of magic happens which can't be explained, and a great song falls out of your guitar, and it's like, oh, cool, and then you forget that that's actually been a week of hard work where you've been writing stuff you don't like, and then all of a sudden you've got something you do like, and it's really easy to forget that sometimes that's for me anyway, that's the process.
I'm exactly the same. The same. Like I look at the I've never really recorded, but like I look at my back catalogue of songs and I see like 60 songs or whatever, and some of them I really like, some of them I know are terrible, but I forget that it took me a long time to get those songs done. I'm 35 this year, and like even like one song every 6 months, I still wouldn't have made up as many as I've done. So it's just it's just trying to take the weight of expectation off, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's something which I've found more difficult. Just sort of, I mean, not that I've had like massive amounts of success with what I've been doing, but when you get people sort of saying, "Oh, that's really good," or "I really like when you do this" and stuff like that, you start. I'm kind of understanding how bands, like famous bands, do like the first album,
Yeah.
no pressure, it's awesome, and then they have to do the difficult second album.
Yeah.
Like, I am totally understanding where that pressure comes from. Like, not even like from my like ridiculous level. Like, I can't imagine how bands do it at that point, because it's like, well, you know, unless you've got like a massive backlog where they can just say, well, let's just take those other songs we didn't bother releasing.
Yeah, that's what
you got, album too.
That's what you got to do, isn't it? You've got to basically build up like a 9-album career before you make it.
before you even start, because once you've got the pressure on, that is it. It's game over, because you're just like, well, now you've got to do that again. Like, and it's just the weight of expectation, like from just yourself.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, because you want to push yourself and make sure that what you're creating is good. That if having to manage your own expectations plus everyone else's. I mean, that's the thing, is like, you shouldn't really care.
No.
You know, to a certain degree, it should be just like, I'm doing this for me, not for you lot. Like,
absolutely. But it's hard, isn't it? It's really hard.
Yeah.
What you described really is the struggle that almost every good musician goes through, and it's this like constant battle of like allowing yourself to make something that you believe is good, and then people receiving it, and if they like it, then you suddenly have to like do it again. Also change enough, like with the, for example, like the Marvel Cinema Universe, exactly that. You've got to basically do something different, better, exactly what everyone wants.
Yeah. But
how do you do it? You know, it's an impossible task.
Yeah, how the fact that they've managed to get to
21
20, however many they've made, like, and I mean, I have noticed a little bit of like sort of public opinion swinging, but I think that's largely aimed at Disney.
Yeah.
And because of Star Wars and what's happening with that, because Star Wars are kind of turning into Marvel movies, which in turn is basically just turning into one big Disney film. Effectively, I think people are just kind of going, "Oh, so this is just a Disney movie now." Like, and I think that's where but the fact that they've managed to keep going, like the last, I mean, I haven't seen Black Panther yet, but the last Marvel film, Thor, like, amazing, total like tangent for me. I was just like, this is great. Like, as Thor as a character, don't care about him at all. I've got none of the comics I've ever read. I don't care. But his character and Taika Waititi that did What We Did in the Shadows, absolutely amazing job. Like, he took a film, and it is. Like, you look at the humor in it, and it is blatantly, it's him. Like, you know, that's its humor. Like, seeing his other films and stuff, like, and it's great. It's really interesting. I mean, the thing with the Marvel film is, like, apparently they have a remit where every film has a specific genre it's supposed to fit in. So, like, Captain America: Winter Soldier was supposed to be like an espionage film. Ant-Man was supposed to be like a family film. Each one has like its own sort of genre, which I guess means you can kind of tailor it in a direction. If only it was that easy to do it with music. I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's mad, isn't it? I mean, I don't know how you do it as a musician. One thing I was wondering was, because you have played with, over the years, some incredible musicians. You've played on stage, like with like people that I'm like really massively envious of, and like and in lots of different bands and stuff. Does that, for you, does that help keep your little creativity cup full, or?
I think so. Like, I think there was definitely a period of time where I felt more musically active than I do now. Definitely the Albanese years definitely was a high point in that. I was definitely felt like I was engaged in music more often.
Yeah.
And when I was doing Albanese and Cosmo at the same time, that was again sort of you get to you get to just see a bit. You get to see, you kind of have a bit more access to stuff you might not necessarily see or hear. Especially with the Cosmo stuff, you're in a van for a long amount of time, so then you've got plenty of time to just sit and listen to music or whatever. And I don't do that as much as I used to. I mean, I try to now. If I'm at home and I'm doing something boring like accounts, music goes on immediately. And yeah, I think it's funny because I wouldn't say that any of the gigs I've done with people that I admire, or people that I'm just like, wow, you're a big deal, has, actually no, that's a lie. I was about to say hasn't inspired me, but that's a lie. Scott Matthews. Every time I watch Scott Matthews, I'm just like,
wow.
Just God, like his voice is just unreal.
Yeah.
And like the songs he writes, they're just watching him play, especially when you get to talk to him before or after, because he's such a lovely bloke, and he's so sort of unassuming. Like you wouldn't like think that he's won awards for songwriting. And I remember the first time I heard Elusive on the radio. Zane Lowe was playing it on Radio 1, and it's his hottest record in the world. And I was working at DBS in Plymouth, and I remember hearing that and just being like, this is an amazing song. And I listened to it on repeat for like 3 weeks or something. And then having a chat with him before he goes on stage, and he's like, yeah, I haven't practiced any of these songs, I'm about to play some. And I'm just like, you what? Like, and he'll get like the last time I saw him play, he started a song, and there's this emotion that it's worth watching people that, especially if they're singer-songwriters and they're playing by themselves, watching for this face. And it's the face where you're about to play a song that you haven't played in front of people before yet, and you're still not fully sure about it.
Yeah.
Like, and there's this bit where he was playing the intro, and I was just like, I know exactly what's going through his brain right now.
Yeah.
And it's like,
fuck, is this right?
yeah, and it's just like, because he just started, the intro was really long, and you can see that it's either he'd forgotten the first line or something like that, and I was just like, and it's like this moment where you kind of, obviously when you talk to people before, you realise they're human, obviously, but like, he goes from being this sort of fallible, wonderful, like friendly guy, and then as soon as he starts singing, or playing guitar, in fact, he becomes like, just immortal. Yeah, he's just sort of like, yeah, you've got an extra strand of DNA, like just immediately. And that, I think, is something that there's Scott Matthews. There was a girl I played. I went to Music Messa a couple of years ago, and I played on the Lakewood stand. And there was an Irish woman called Wallace Bird. I have never seen anyone play and sing with so much passion. Like, it's just her and an acoustic guitar, and she was beating the crap out of her guitar. Like, she was absolutely hammering it and just like singing like her life depended on it.
Yeah.
I remember just being like, because at the time I was super shy, so I was kind of just like, la la la, I don't know what I'm doing here, kind of thing, really nervous and kind of thing. And that was one of a thing I definitely took as like, because for me, writing lyrics, I don't like writing lyrics that I don't believe in. If I write a line and I'm just like, that doesn't mean anything, I largely am just like, well, I need to bin that then.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm singing something, it has to mean something. And I was kind of like realizing that what I was doing is, as much as I might be singing these lines that might mean something to me, maybe I'm not pushing how much it does mean to me out.
Yeah.
And I've noticed since I've sort of consciously been like, right, sing this like your life depends on it.
Yeah.
Since I've been doing that, people have been sort of coming and saying, that was really powerful. And I was kind of like, yes. Like,
it's exactly acting, isn't it? It's exactly that thing, is like, you have to believe in what you're doing and commit to it, and that is what being a amazing vocalist is, isn't it? It's people connecting with what you're doing and going like, wow, it's like spine tingling,
Yeah, I believe what that person is singing at me. Like, if you have that, I think that is that's a great thing to use. So yeah, Wallace Bird, Scott Matthews, definitely. I remember I've watched them and taken things. Also Stagecraft as well, because the other thing in between the songwriting and the learning to play guitar or instruments or whatever, there's the bit where you have to talk to the crowd, which I hate.
Yeah, me too.
Just like, if we could just literally, could I just play the songs and then just go? That'd be great. Like, because especially because all my songs are in stupid tuning, so I have to retune my guitar, and there's always that little period of time where I've got to do that, where it's deadly silent, and you have to fill that silence, otherwise it's awkward and you lose people start checking their phones, all this other kind of stuff. People have no attention span these days.
No.
So, God, how old do I sound? And it's learning ways of doing that.
Yeah.
Because it's not something I find natural. It's not natural to me at all to kind of be on stage. But what I have found is because my music tends to be melodramatic. I try and I don't say I want to try and be funny, but I generally tend to be fairly sarcastic, and the funnier element of my personality is now coming out in between songs, which I kind of like. I like this idea of I'm going to sing this sad song about this, which is terrible and horrible, and in between it, I'm going to tell a joke, sort of like BoJack style, kind of like, oh, it's tragic. Oh no, it's funny. Yeah. It's tragic. It's funny. Sort of. So I've been finding that easier. If I'm in the right mood, then I can talk to people.
Yeah. I hate it. I hate it so much. Like the minute I joined Company B, they were like, their previous singer was a guy called Ed Hart, and he is like the most lovable frontman. Like everyone just connected with him, and they just, oh my god, it was like, it's like trying to replace like Luke Skywalker or something. It's like an impossible task. And I'm like exactly like you. I hate talking on stage. I feel like I don't know what to say. I don't know anything. And But like part of how I overcome it is through a sort of sociopathic technique of being like a split person, and I go up on stage and I just go into like
someone else.
Yeah, going to somebody else, and I just allow that character to be confident and be brave, all things that I would never be if I was doing it.
Yeah.
So,
it's a really interesting dynamic, being able to kind of effectively split your personality into being like, right, this is how I usually am, and this is the person I have to be in a minute for the next 45 minutes. This is who you're getting. It's a fascinating thing to be able to do.
I had a girl come up to me after our gig, and she started talking to me, and she was like coming on to me, and I was really shy and really like self-conscious, and she's like, what is wrong? Wrong? You're not how I expected. You're not who I expected at all. And it does. It just switches back really sadly.
Immediately, as soon as you get off stage, it's like, and back to normal. That's a lot of energy to be in that person. Like, but that's the thing. It's like what Jim Carrey was saying about masks, and being this person that you feel everyone needs to see. Because I mean, there've been. I remember when we went to watch Damien Rice, and he's your classic sort of. I don't want to say troubled singer-songwriter, but singer-songwriter that's always thinking about stuff and is deep. And he was kind of. This gig has a really weird vibe, because in between each song there's a little silence where retuning his guitar, and he looked like he wanted to say something, and he didn't for about 4 songs. And then, like before song 5, he was just like, I just feel like if anyone here wants to dance or get up and just do things, that's like, I don't know where he's going with this, like just where this come from. And he's just kind of like, I kind of just feel like a bit weird today. Like if anyone just wants to do stuff, like, and we were sat slap bang in the middle. I remember turning around to Ben and saying, we should go and stand right at the front, like right now. And Ben was just like, yeah, maybe not. Like, because I have this moment that I have this part of my brain which kind of like enjoys the idea of doing spontaneous stuff. I just never do it. Because my sensible brain goes, no, don't do that. That's a silly idea. And about 5 seconds after I said that, just down the sides of the pavilions, you could see people walking down, going to the front of the stage, and they all just stood right at the front of the stage, just literally just like looking up. And there's a part of me which was just like, bollocks, that could have been us. Like, and I was kind of like, I'm pretty comfortable here actually. I'm enjoying sitting down. Like, but it's that weird sort of awkward silence, sort of just like, I'm playing these songs, they're really emotional, I'm not going to say very much in between the songs, I'm just going to play the songs and then maybe make a comment about something and then play another song and talk very softly and blah blah blah. It's kind of, I think there's a place for it. I think it just depends on the gig. But yeah, it's knowing when that is going to be the thing and knowing when to just be a clown.
Well, sometimes reading that situation. I mean, like, there's been gigs where I've played, and it's like you haven't managed to connect with the audience, and the audience has a disconnect, and
Yeah.
you just rattle through your set, and it doesn't matter what you say on stage,
Yeah.
you don't get that
Connection.
that
Yeah.
connection at all, and it's horrible. It's really
Mm.
horrible. It's really for me, a performance is like equal parts band and crowd.
Yeah.
And if you can unify those two things together, you get
Yeah.
your best gigs.
Yeah. At the risk
that-
of sounding like a hippie, it's a transferring of energy, and if
Yeah.
it's constantly moving in like that, it's that's when you get the really good gigs.
Yeah, symbiosis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like because I mean, you can have a gig where you play really well.
Yeah.
I remember having a few of those last year where I was just like, well, I feel like I played well, but that gig sucked. Like because we did, one of the worst, absolute low point last year is we did a gig supporting a Bon Jovi tribute act.
Nice.
Yeah, like I remember at the
What
time.
are they called? Bon Jovi.
I think it was something like, oh bloody hell. I think it might have been something really lame, just like the Bon Jovi Experience or something like that.
Yeah.
I was just like, and I just remember just being there and just like, because at the time I was like, I'm not sure if this is a good idea to do this gig. The promoter had kind of sold it. Because I said to the promoter, he was like, do you want to do this gig? And I was kind of like, I don't think that's going to fit us.
No.
And he's like, yeah. And he was like, well, to be honest with you, usually we don't even put a support band on. It's just CDs or whatever. And then like they're music lovers. They're they're just here to hear something. And I was like, yeah, but they're here to see a Bon Jovi tribute act. That's not the trait of someone I'd describe as a music lover. Like, no offense to Bon Jovi or anything, but going and watching a Bon Jovi tribute act does not sound to me like a music lover, like what I describe as that. So he did this gig, and we went on stage, and funnily enough, even though I was super apprehensive, I felt kind of weirdly comfortable in a way. I went up and the first thing I said is like, "Evening, we're obviously not John Bon Jovi." For anyone that was expecting that straight off the bat, sorry to disappoint. And there was a split second where I thought maybe this gig might go well because everyone laughed. Like, and I was just like, oh, okay, because it was the Fleece and it was sold out. So I was like, this is a big room. I want this gig to go well because it's full.
Yeah.
And it sucked. There were maybe like 3 or 4 like girls at the front that were kind of getting into it. No one else cared. Like, and it's just like I am playing to 800 and something people that don't care.
Yeah.
Like, and that's difficult because you're just like, how am I supposed to put? And even though we played pretty well, it wasn't the full band. It was kind of like half the band sort of thing. But yeah, that was a struggle because it's just like I didn't. I mean, lucky enough I hadn't done it solo. Like the fact that I was on stage with people, like every now and then you'd finish the song, look across and be like, and then someone would look back at you and be like, oh god, this is horrible. Like, yeah. So oh, thank God you're sharing this horrendous moment with me. Like, so yeah, I think it can be. It's definitely you could have the most. You could play the best and sung the best you've ever done. But if no one cares, it's not going to be the greatest gig you do.
No.
Like, at all.
I feel like, and it's hard to say this, but I feel like that is, on many respects, that is the fault lay with like the band, like the band communicating, and like I often feel like there's times when I could have turned a crowd around if I was better at that kind of rapport. If I could sort of turn on the charm a bit more, or not be self-aware in the moment, or.
Yeah.
For me, it's that. It's like that self-awareness. I'm just like, I can hear. I know what a good frontman sounds like, and I know when I speak, it isn't that.
I think it's sometimes. I think that might be the case. Like, I think sometimes you just like, like I've seen where we used to watch Karis, the Australian guy, used to come over to and play and ride and stuff.
Right.
And his like ability to control a crowd is like, I remember being the first time I ever noticed that type of thing. Yeah. Like, it was just, for me, it's just like you go and play songs, people love it, that's how it works. Like,
yeah.
It's just like, no, it's not, especially now. But Karis, I remember just like him just somehow, like just him and an acoustic guitar managing to get an entire room absolutely jumping and having it. I remember that was the first time I was kind of just like, okay, that's a skill.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
and you know, I don't think I have it. There are people I have seen that I'm like, yeah, like I remember once being asked to front Freshly Squeezed for a very short space. Someone sort of just floated the idea to me, and I was like, no, because that band needs like a front man, like someone who is like charismatic, and that's not me. Like I'm going to sing a sad song. Like it's yeah,
it's a different skill set, isn't it? And I think what
Absolutely.
you do is write really beautiful songs that mean something, and what they do is not that. And those two skill sets don't necessarily merge. You very rarely find that, like you were saying about Damien Rice. You know, it's a good example, isn't it? He's somebody that writes very personal, introspective songs, and I think that kind of stuff is hard. It's hardwired, and it makes it really hard for you to then think, I'm the sort of person that's going to be like standing on the front of the stage talking shit at people, and they're going to want to listen to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's definitely a different skill, I think. And it's there are some people I've seen, I'm just like, yeah, that person's got their stagecraft nailed. And it's just different. It's always going to be slightly different, because obviously, you know, people are different, so therefore reactions to things are going to be different as well. So it's a really interesting, weird part of like when I first started playing guitar and writing music, it's like, that's not what I was thinking I was gonna have to, like, that's gonna be a skill I'm gonna have to learn. Oh yeah, you need to talk to people on stage. Do I? I'm just playing music, like, so.
But then when you would play in Albanazar, like, I think every time you would talk, I think you would be felt safer because you were like one of 3 people who would sort of lead the band. When
absolutely.
It's just you. It's a different thing entirely, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's when you're the sole response. It's kind of like, it's the thought of, if this joke lands flat, that's my fault. That's me. Like, this is all on me. Like Albanaz, I mean, you know, 80% of the Albanaz gigs we were drunk anyway, so it didn't really matter too much. Like there were 2 other people for me to bounce off. So I'd largely let Al do stuff, and every now and then, if I felt like I had something funny to say, or like something would pop into my head that I think would compliment what someone's just said or whatever, then I'd just chime in. But largely, I just, you know, leave it to the people. And it wasn't really until when I did the Secret Cinema gig that I kind of started, I don't want to say embracing it, but getting a bit more comfortable with it, because I basically had to be Marvin Berry.
For people that don't know, describe that gig, because that is amazing.
That was ridiculous. So my friend Bobby he plays in a band called the 45s, who are ace, probably my favourite cover band of all time. They basically play like garage rock versions of Motown songs.
Nice.
It's incredible. Bobby has a ridiculous voice. The whole band are amazing. They're all like great guys. So there's a guy we know called Sam who works for Rough Trade Records, and he was kind of helping out with Secret Cinema, and they needed some bands for some of the bits. And the way they were doing Secret Cinema, the Back to the Future one, is they were starting off the gig with you got the whole of Hill Valley that they've built. You can kind of go around for like an hour or 2, like interacting with all the actors and all the like little shops and like little games, things or whatever. They have the Under the School dance, or Under the Sea dance.
Under the Sea dance, yeah.
Yes, they had that all like remade and stuff like that. The hall was all made, and then basically Marvin Berry and the Starlighters would go and play a short set in the Under the Sea Ball. And then they'd go onto the main stage where the screen. So basically, you've got a big stage, and then the screen, which has got the film going to be projected onto it. What it starts off with is Marvin Berry and the Starlighters go onto the main stage and play. I can't remember what song it was. I think it was Johnny Be Good, maybe. Then it goes into Power of Love. During that,
nice.
It's amazing. During that point, the guy who's playing Marty, I think is in the DeLorean. He's either in the DeLorean or he's skating on the back of a car, basically. And he comes round the back, so the crowd are all kind of in front, So if the stage is here, stage is here, crowd are here. He comes around the side, and then skates off, comes up onto the main stage, pretends to play guitar with us, and then the sound effect would play, and then like we'd leg it off stage, and then they'd put the film on, and then at the end of the film, like the film would stop, and we'd play, like we'd come back on stage, and as soon as the like credits started rolling, we'd start playing Johnny Be Good for like people to have like a lance dance to or whatever. But it was in front of 5,000 people.
Oh, God.
So my first gig was I literally didn't practice with the band because I'm a stand-in for Bobby, basically, because like they were like, there was a few gigs that Bobby couldn't do, so they're like, we need a short black guy that can play guitar. Bobby was like, I don't want. So I ended up basically standing in for Bobby and doing a couple of these gigs. But because Bobby was playing in the band, he was doing all the rehearsals. Yeah. So I was basically just learning the songs at home and then trying to learn the words. And then my first gig was also the first time I'd actually played with the band.
Wow.
Nerve-wracking, because I've never done anything like that. I hate going on stage being unprepared. I sometimes you go to open mics and you see someone who's like, yeah, I wrote this song like half an hour ago and I just thought I'd give it a pop. And I'm just like,
yeah,
nope. Do that. Like at least a couple of hours of me hammering out and me getting it right twice in a row without making a mistake before I go and play that out. Like I can't be dealing with not knowing what I'm doing. I hate it.
Yeah.
So I was a level of nerves I've never experienced. I didn't feel physically sick like I usually do if I get nervous. My mind just erased itself when I got on stage. And the first song we were doing, it was Long Tall Sally was the song we were doing.
Yeah.
And Long Tall Sally, there's no music where the lyrics are at the beginning of that song, so it's a stab. So it's I'm gonna tell Aunt Mary about Uncle John. Da, da, da. So the only thing that the rest of the band are doing, they're going da, da, and then I'm singing, but I've forgotten the words. So I'm going da, 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 da. I was just like, oh god, like it just wouldn't come. And when the whole band managed to come in for the rest of us, I was like, oh, thank God for that. Like, because also I'm not a rock and roll singer. Yeah. Like my vocal, I've never tried to sing like that. So the first gig we did, I remember going home and just being like, oh, that sucked. Like I was super. I felt like I'd done myself an injustice by just like being so bad.
Yeah.
And then it got to, I think it was the third one. The third one. Like I started to loosen up a little bit. Like we've played with the band, done it a few times. So it's kind of like I know what I'm doing, so I'll just try and focus on enjoying myself. And that one, that day we were supposed to be doing the Under the Sea Ball and then the main stage as usual. But it was so windy that day that they decided not to put any of the stuff on the main stage because the drum riser had rolled off.
God.
And rolled off the stage. Nearly killing a guy, actually. He was like, some guy was like, he was underneath the stage, but he just moved out of the way. Like, he just happened to have walked out of the way, and it just crashed like behind him.
Okay,
like, Jesus. So they were like, right, we're not doing main stage performance. Just do a slightly longer gig in Under the Sea Ball. And we're like, okay, cool. So immediately, I'm like, okay, I don't have to play in front of 5,000 people, so that's a little bit less pressure.
Yeah.
And that gig totally went off. Like, I did Earth Angel, like I kind of set myself into the character. I was like, right, I'd watch the film, like after I did the first performance, I watched the film again to see what he says during those scenes. I was just like, right, to try and take myself out of my own nerves, I'm going to pretend to be Marvin Berry in Back to the Future. So I went on and I was like, oh, this is a song for all you love birds out there. And everyone just lost it. Like I said, because these people are all super nerdy. Yeah. Like they have watched this film a million times. They know all the lines. And as soon as I said that line, they all knew what was coming. So they all grabbed their partners and they're all ready. Like I hadn't even strummed the first song and they were already like in the groove of doing this thing. I was like, this is really cool. Like, and that moment from the crowd like started fueling me, and I was just like, yeah, this is really gonna start getting into it. By the time we got around to Johnny Be Good, I played the first two notes of Johnny Be Good, and the roof went off. Like it literally, like there are people doing the proper like the bebop dancing, like flipping people around, all that stuff. Like, and I was just like, I'm having the best time. And that was my favorite gig of the whole. And I think that was the last one I did. Yeah. But it just felt super. It was proper energy transfer. Just like the crowd were like we are totally up for this. I was just like, so am I. Thanks. Like it was awesome. But yeah, the whole experience was
That's amazing.
utterly,
That does sound amazing.
Yeah.
I'm a massive Back to the Future nerd, and that would have been been pretty satisfactory for me.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
I've got a few questions. I've a lot of stuff. I mean, we talked about creativity a little bit. So like, have you found any way of getting rid of your writer's block? Is there anything that you? No, it's not an answer.
Not yet. I mean, I've been getting desperate, and I've been going over old things, like looking at stuff that I've written that I'm like, I never really fully finished that, and kind of just sort of. It's the baby steps thing again. It's like, I'll just try and tweak this old song and try and make it better. Let's see if I can do that first, and then build it up to, because I think the longer it goes, it's like a muscle.
Yeah.
Like when I was the point where I wrote Shipwrecks, I remember being about as prolific as I ever get. I was writing maybe one every couple of weeks or something like that. Not for very long. It was only for a couple of months, but there was that period of time. I felt like I was on a songwriting high. Just I was writing and being like, that's good. And it was because I churned out these like 10 rubbish songs, then done Shipwrecks, and then everything I was writing after that was kind of like of a certain standard. I was kind of like, oh, these are all pretty good. Then it started tailing off again. Like it was just like, oh, now I'm rubbish again. But I think it's when you're in the swing of things, you're just like, just banging these things out, and it's much easier to kind of just go right. I'm going to write a song because it's not a big thing.
No,
it's not a big deal. It's almost a bit like losing your virginity. Like it's this huge thing that you've got to do, and it's like, oh, that's so terrifying. I can't do it. Like, and then all of a sudden you've done it. It's like, you've done it now. Like, okay, that's not a big deal. Like, so what? I don't know what you were worried about.
Yeah.
Apart from everything. Like, it's just like, did you do it okay? Like, I don't know. Like, it's this thing where you build it up, and the more it builds up, the more difficult it is to overcome.
I get kind of sleep anxiety. So I get insomnia, and so I get that thing where you just do the counting the clock and just all of that business. And I think it's the same thing, isn't it? It's like the more you worry about doing something, the less able you are to do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
For me, is and then it happens, and then it's like, and then I'm like, okay, it wasn't too bad. But then it starts again. Like each time, it's the same again. But creativity is definitely like a muscle. There is some sort of like, I don't know. There is something that happens when you're in that flow. You have that like kind of ability to just get the sweet spot. It's really,
totally.
It is rare.
Yeah, the more you do, I mean, that's part of the reason I bought a keyboard just before Christmas, an expensive one, just so I could start playing piano again. Like I was like, every time there's a piano, I always want to have a go on one. I'm just like, oh, I'd love to be able to play piano properly. And I thought, I'm gonna get myself a weighted keyboard. Yeah. Which has got some. I mean, I ended up buying a Nord basically, so it's got
really nice.
I got the new one because I was going to get the Stage 2, but then I went into the shop to have a go on one, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're not doing the Stage 2 anymore. The Stage 3 is out." And I was just like, "Oh." Okay. At first, I was like, "Great, it means the Stage 2 is going to be cheaper. I'll just go and get that one."
Yeah.
But then I played the Stage 3, and I was just like, "This is incredible. This is absolutely amazing. I don't deserve this instrument. I know pianists that are way better than me, and they can't afford one of these, so I feel bad buying one."
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to let them play it. But I was just like, I am buying this thing because it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's an investment because I've already, like, just in the trying to learn how to play piano again, and get better, like, which I have. I'm now a better pianist than I was when I was like 16 or 17. I mean, that's not saying much, but like I am better at doing that, and I've found myself coming across chord sequences that I wouldn't have found on guitar.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to write something on the piano. Like I haven't fully finished it, but I've written a piece of music. Like now all I need to do is work out how I'm going to, sing it and play, because that's an entirely different thing as well, playing piano and singing at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think for me, different instruments or toys is a really great way of
sort of
opening.
Provoking your
provoking creativity, because it's kind of like my guitar. I'm not a guitar master by any far stretch of the imagination, but like part of the reason why my songs are in so many different tunings is because it's effectively reimagining the instrument. Effectively, it's like still the same thing, but all the notes are in different places now. So all the chords I know are now completely null and void, and I've got to find some new ones.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I ever picked up a guitar, I had no idea what you did with it. I just put my fingers in some places until something sounded nice.
Yeah.
And that's how in a way, that's kind of how I write songs. I kind of go, oh, that's a nice chord.
Yeah.
I think the next chord I want is going to be something like that, and then I work it until I find it, or it's just just smashing out some chords and it just happening to sound nice. So having a completely different instrument to play is a great way, I think, of opening up creativity, because you're kind of just like, I have no idea what I'm doing with this thing. I'm just going to muck around. You're kind of set down to this base level of, it's like someone giving you loads of Lego and saying,
make something.
Make something. Just make like something. Or someone gives you a robot built of Lego, and then they say, right, take that apart and make something else. You're like, okay, cool. Here's some new bits. Like, it's like, I didn't used to have that bit when I was a kid. Yeah. Like, you create more stuff because you've got new tools and stuff. So I think that is a really good thing.
Do you think that because there's been a lot of technological things moving over the our lifetime, especially, there's been a massive move technologically in what things you can use, how technology can help you in the studio and stuff like that. Is there anything that you find particularly has helped you, like with recording and like is there any like do you use like any weird software, or do you use anything like I don't know. I'm not sure if it's for like, me. I have like a jam man that I used to use to like build up the beginnings of songs and stuff like that. Is there anything that sort of gets you going?
I think not at the moment. I've been pretty old school with everything, but I think that's changing, because what I used to do is, when I had a studio sort of set up in my spare room, because when I was living in Plymouth, I was living in a basement flat. The rent was ridiculously cheap, and one of the rooms I basically just was like, right, that's gonna be my studio. So that was just set up ready to go. Like, and I think that I miss that. Like, I miss having, because you come up with an idea and you're like, okay, this sounds nice, and you go and you record it, and then once you've recorded it, then you just start adding things to it and like doing like a Prince on it and just chucking loads of stuff out and then going, oh, I don't like that, take that out, whatever. And I think having the ability to record stuff and then immediately, like Logic, you've got the guitar amp simulator which comes with it, which is actually pretty good, considering it just comes with it. Like, there's like drum loops and stuff like that you can kind of put on just to give yourself a vague idea of what you want it to sound like, all that kind of stuff. So I think having the ability to have a home studio now, even in like it's a demo sort of studio, I think is super important, because it's great to just be able to layer things up and just like go and see it and hear it back and listen back to it and just like cut things out and be like, oh, I don't like that bit, cut that bit out. I wonder if you took the bass out of that bit, and like that for me, I think that's when I think I was most creative, when I was doing demos for stuff. Because you just feel a little bit more connected to everything you're doing, because you can see it, and play it over and over again without actually having to play it. You record it in, and then, because I think it's quite something I get with the band sometimes is I'm focusing on what I'm playing, so sometimes I don't hear what the band are doing. Like, because it's quite hard to try and play the song
and hear everybody else doing their things as well.
And like, of course you're supposed to be putting in a performance. I mean, this is more of like rehearsals. Like, if I'm playing a gig, I almost certainly have no idea what they're doing, because it's kind of like I'm focusing on playing as well as I can, singing as well as I can, maybe monitoring the audience if I do open my eyes long enough to do that. But like, what the guys are, and obviously, like interacting with the band and stuff like that. Like, if something sounds really good, I'll look around, look at people, oh, that sounded pretty cool. But it's the ability to, when you're actually playing, to analyze what you're actually doing whilst you're doing it, I think is super hard. So if you record something and then go, okay, like we went into the studio with Beyond Rivers, the band I play drums in. Stu, the guy that was producing this, was basically like, right, play the song like you do it live,
Yeah.
and we'll record it. So we recorded it. We'd go back into the room, and he'd go, right, let's play it back. And then we'd listen to the song, and then he'd just sort of turn around in the seat and be like, what do you think I'm going to say? And I'd be like, I need to take that drum roll out there, don't I? And he'd be like, yeah. And that one. He's like, yeah. Like that. And you kind of, because when you're in the band, especially if you're behind a drum kit, you're playing with the band, you're just like, yeah, sounds great. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, if you sit back and listen to it without the context of the adrenaline which is flying through you when you're playing it, you're like, that is totally erroneous. I don't know why I'm playing that there. That doesn't need to be there. It's not adding anything to the song. Like, you can listen to the whole song as a whole. So I think recording bits and having the ability to step back from and actually listen to it instead of playing it, I think is really useful.
Yeah.
I think when I first started writing songs, that's how I was doing the lyrics. I'd record the guitar parts, and then I'd just press play and just sit there trying to write instead of playing guitar along with it.
Yeah. Is that like, how's your writing process now? Do you sort of like write obviously slow at the minute?
Slow, non-existent.
if you were gonna like start writing one of your songs, would it tend to be like, some people sort of collect a book up of lyrics and write down little ideas, or some people just get, I know friends who just grab a guitar and write a chord sequence and then put some sort of fill-in lyrics in? How does that work for you? A bit of both?
A bit of both, yeah. It depends on the song. I mean, there's been some songs where I've written a bit of music, and then I've kind of gone, oh, actually, I've got some old lyrics which might fit over that.
Yeah.
And then it goes from there. Other times, I've had Shipwrecks, for instance, I was working at some conference, and some guy had an analogy about how if the tide rises, like, all the ships rise with it. Yeah. And when the tide drops, like, all the ships go down along with it as well. And in my mind went a step further, and it's like, if it drops down to nothing, you can see all the wrecks of the ships that were below it. Yeah. Kind of thing. Like, at the time, I was going through some stuff which that kind of resonated with me quite heavily. So I was writing the song about this situation, but doing it from, I was like, right, lyrically everything has to be nautically themed, or at least that's kind of how I want to talk about stuff, like, based around that analogy. But the music almost always comes first. Like, I almost always write a verse, then I write like a chorus or a bridge or whatever, and I do almost all the music, and then I start trying to put melodies over it. So sometimes it'll be just singing notes to see what sounds right or whatever, or sometimes it'll be like the sound of a word. Yeah. Like, you might kind of like go, oh, no, like, and you notice like a certain diction, and then finding a word which fits in it.
That's interesting. That's quite interesting. I've never.
Yes. Yeah. So it's almost like nonsense, because I mean it's. I kind of sometimes feel like it's cheating, because it almost feels a bit like the song's coming from. It's just random. Yeah. Like, I'm just like coming up with sometimes you just hear a word which fits over a certain melody, and then you kind of go, oh, okay, and assuming that word is one that you kind of think, oh, maybe I could go with this with the lyrics, and then it goes off from there.
Yeah. I like that. So that's quite cool. That's a good. Yeah. That's quite interesting.
So usually that, I think.
There's a guy called Ryan Adams who I don't know if you've heard or not. He uses a system called Stacks, and he like gets a book for like writing lyrics. He gets like a reference book and a thesaurus, and he kind of just goes through this book and finds words that he likes, and just sort of creates these like little poems from little phrases that he finds randomly, and then thesaurusizes.
Right. Yeah, like that word.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah. I was wondering where it was going to go in my mouth. Thesaurusizes.
I like it. It's got a lot of that. I reckon that could work.
But yeah, so I think that's quite an interesting way of writing. And like Radiohead would do, like, one of their songs is like written out and then chopped up and then rearranged. I think David Bowie did a similar sort of thing. I find the lyrics really interesting. Like the guitarist from Company B does, when he writes lyrics, he writes little stories, little cheeky little stories, and that's kind of his thing. It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, there's so much beauty in beautifully spoken word, or like sung words, is just such an evocative idea.
Yeah. That's why I think I struggle with it because I think it's really important.
Yeah.
To not. There's nothing I hate worse than going and watching a band and the lyrics are just terrible.
Nonsense.
You're just like, I mean, to be fair, I think part of the reason I struggle with lyrics is that I don't often listen to them.
Yeah.
Like I'm very much about music first. Like music has always been like the sound of instruments and how everything's working together has always been what's fascinated me.
Yeah.
And then lyrics is always a second. But then at the same time, if I'm writing lyrics, I'm hypercritical about what I'm writing because I know that I don't want to just be singing cheesy. Oh, I looked up at the sky and wondered why. It's just like, oh, really? Like I want it to be
significant or like, I get it.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, so yeah, it's got to be right.
And that's why, and I don't need to blow smoke up your ass. That's why you're good. That's one of the things that makes people good is like this striving to a higher purpose. This like wanting setting some rules that you sort of like try and adhere to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's important, really. I think it's
so totally.
How do you think and I don't know if you do or not, but how do you think your music will evolve and stay fresh and inventive? How do you do that?
Well, that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. There's a potential name change type thing floating around.
Wow. Okay.
Because, well, to be honest, I've never really liked the idea of just using my name.
No.
I could just never think of anything that just didn't sound pretentious.
Yeah.
So I found the name the other day and I was just like, ooh, I like that. So I'm toying with the idea of whether I just change the name and the music, and obviously it's something to do with the production of the way things are recorded as well. I'm sort of toying with a couple of producers to, when I do write something, do the next iteration of stuff, because nothing I've done so far has, apart from maybe the first EP with Biddle, has been produced. As in someone coming along and saying it should sound like this. It's basically been me, Harry, and Naomi going into the studio and just layering up a tune. Basically.
I'm a big fan of Harry and Naomi. They're excellent musicians.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're it's like the pair of them are just great, and it's a real pleasure having. I mean, Naomi's not so much in the band anymore because she's back in Cornwall. But it was that period of time where we were going off and doing stuff as the trio. I was kind of just like, I am loving this, because like everything I was doing was just made 3 times better by having them there. Like their ability to understand harmony and like the way their vocals work together and stuff like that. And Harry's bass playing, even though he's a ridiculous drummer, is awesome as well. It's just like, oh, stop being so ridiculously talented. So it's great. Like and Naya as well. Like her piano playing is great and her vocals are great as well. And it's nice having people involved in something that you've created and then they're making it better. And enjoying it, I think is really nice.
Having people that understand the shorthand of what you're doing is rare, isn't it? Really.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's been great. I mean, it's the next like recording stuff. I'm kind of thinking. I mean, for a start, I definitely want things to be the next recordings. I want them to be heavier. I feel like, especially recently, where I've kind of been focusing a little bit more on how I perform songs and how I sing them, I feel like maybe the emotional impact of what I'm singing about or when I sing stuff live isn't necessarily there on the record. And that's difficult anyway. That's a bit of I think that's where a producer comes in, and being able to guide like a song and go, right, it needs to build in this way or whatever. So I'm definitely want to focus on recordings in the future and how that goes. Whether that's a change of genre, I don't know. I toyed with that idea because I was thinking maybe I should try and write in a completely different style of music for this name change and have Aaron Douglas still does singer-songwriter stuff and this other project does, I don't know, trip hop. Something different.
I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I mean, if I was capable of writing anything in any other genre than I've been doing, that would be great. So I'm still toying with it at the moment because it's kind of like, basically, I've ordered a new studio set up. So once that is up and running,
Yeah.
I'm going to start like really throwing myself at it and seeing if I can actually if I can write in different genres, and if I can, whether I just incorporate that into what I'm doing, or whether I just make that a new thing entirely.
Yeah, I think that making it a new thing entirely is quite good because it gives you the opportunity to like have both things.
Yeah.
And so the way that I think people do really well at writing their own different genre is like you have to immerse yourself completely in a different style, just like and just take on a different like completely different persona to do it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I guess it's my first thing is working out which one.
What do you want to do?
So what I want to do is the question, because there are loads of different. Like my music taste is fairly eclectic, so it's kind of trying to work out which bits from which types of genres of music or whatever am I going to try and shoehorn into this new project, kind of thing, and then pick that. But anything coming out of the Aaron Douglas camp, for sure, is going to be louder, I think, because also with the band, I think for a start, the next EP, I'm probably not going to do any more EPs. It's probably just going to be singles, I think, from now on. Just doing one track at a time, and just sort of saying, right, that track is nailed, that's going out, kind of thing, as opposed to spending loads of time like on an EP, because it almost always takes me a year at least to do an EP, and I'm just like, I'd rather spend 4 months on one song and get it absolutely just like, and then shut that out. It's like, okay, that's done. Like that could go out, and spend like all the time on that instead. But I think that would probably be with the band more than like just 3 of us going in and laying stuff down. It would actually have like the whole band on it, because the band sound is a lot heavier. Because I'm using electric.
I thought you sounded quite heavy when I saw you in Royal William Yard. I thought you guys like were definitely rockier than I imagined you were going to be.
Yeah.
No, it sounded good. It sounded cool. Is there? So do you think that like how do you transition it from? Is that something that like will that be like a complete change of like all of the sort of art aesthetic and everything that you've built up?
I don't think so. I think the aesthetically, I think it'll probably. Because Ian, the guy that does all my artwork and stuff, he's very he's very experimental with what he does artwork wise, and he's quite conscious of things like branding, and like we changed the logo for the last EP. So that will probably stay like it is for a bit, just because we don't want to change every time. So he's fairly on it with stuff like with how things look on the aesthetic side of things. So I think it'll probably stay a certain way. I think definitely there'll be more like recordings. There'll be a bit more of a heavier edge to it, because I do like rock music, and I kind of feel like that it's almost not represented in what I do. Which I'm kind of like, like I did get a review from someone saying, it's a really nice EP, and I was just like, I want it to be nice. I want it to have a bit of bite to it. I want it to have some balls. And I was kind of like, nice is no, I don't want it to be nice. I want it to have some grit to it. So, there'll definitely be more balls on the next one. And so I think the general aesthetic maybe I guess that's still evolving as well, because things like how we look when we go on stage, like I've never said to the band, we need to dress a certain way, but that might have to happen. Like we've got an audition for the Pilton Party in June, and that gig I'm just like, right, that's where I'm setting myself as a bar. Like by the time we get to that, and it's quite difficult because all the band members are doing other bits. So at the moment, I'm now also trying to get other musicians in, so I have a team B and maybe even a team C, because they're all so busy that it's trying to get everyone in at the right time or whatever. But I might have to have a conversation where we say, right guys, we're all going on stage dressed as clowns, or I don't know, like
but like there's something to be said about having like a branding, isn't there? Like having like like the white stripes or
Yeah.
the band the Idols.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot to be said for like having something like that. You know,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really,
It's an identity.
yeah, absolutely. Branding is like really massively helpful because it enables people to go like, this is who they.
That's that.
It's that, yeah,
Yeah. That's the pigeonhole that they're going in. That's the
absolutely,
box.
yeah.
Yeah. People need to do that.
Yeah.
Like they have an inherent need. Humanity needs to put things in boxes and say, right, that's different from that, but it's the same as this or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Someone was saying like a really good like a silhouette, like how you get like a really rememberable thing is like the silhouette needs to be sort of drawable, or like, you know, you from memory. If you can go like,
yeah.
I don't know, whatever, like the Mackie D M or whatever.
Yeah. The Golden Arches. Yeah. It's like, yeah. Like if it's easy to draw from memory, then you're onto a good one. Yeah. All that kind of stuff is. And it's stuff that, you know, like I remember, you know, a couple of years ago being just like, I hate the idea that I'm going to have to think about this.
Yeah.
Like, because I just want to write songs. But, you know, stuff like that, the Pilton Party, Michael Levis is almost certainly going to be there.
Yeah.
So I like, for me, like there are things that people like to say, oh, it's being in the right place, right time, etc., etc. And there's been a few times where I felt like I've been in the right place at the right time and I've just not done the right thing, like, or just not been at the right place in my mind for it. And for this gig coming up, I'm just like, right, that's the one. Like, if Michael Levis is going to be at that gig, I want him to leave that place and be like, those guys were good.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, and on every possible level, like, so, like, I'm having to think about what we're going to look like on stage or this other kind of stuff. Because at the same time, I don't want it to be like out of character.
No.
Like, it's probably just going to be something really simple, like just everyone wear black.
Yeah.
Like that's the classic. It doesn't even matter. Like, you don't have to be wearing like a black tight t-shirt. It could, as long as it's black, I don't care. Like, because I don't want people to be just like, oh right, I'm gonna have to go and buy this shirt that I would never wear.
Yeah.
Like, I still want people to have their own personalities and stuff like that. But we just need to look like we're a unit as opposed to, you know, a bunch of people playing music at the same time on a stage.
I think
so.
I think that for Company B, that is like a massively important thing. You know,
Yeah,
it's like
totally.
our identity, and that, you know, that kind of uniform idea is really powerful. It's really powerful.
Yeah.
All right, just gonna very quickly just got one or two more things. How have you built around your band a community of people that like? How do you foster a community? Is there anything that you think about? Do you think about that? Is that something that kind of goes through your mind?
Do you mean as in like band or like people listening
like,
to the music?
Like, yeah, people what sort of following you. So like, how do you encourage like fans, and how do you engage with them, and is there like putting videos out and stuff like that? Is there anything that do you give it any thought, or do you just do it randomly? Is it like?
I think because I really struggle with content. I'm consciously aware of the fact that I don't do it enough.
Yeah.
I've started using Instagram stories a little bit more and just posting any other kind of inane crap because that's what people just seem to be doing. Because I mean, a lot of it is in my mind. I'm like, no one cares. Like, no one wants to see me eating avocado and cheese on toast. Like, who cares about that? You know, like it's like. But then people do.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that I'm realizing. People care about crap. Crap, which means absolutely nothing. Oh, you had a cup of tea this morning.
Ooh,
amazing! How many sugars did he put in? I don't care. Like, so it's. I'm noticing that is a thing. And again, what I wanted to start doing when the studio's all sort of up and running is just try and create more content, because I think that's what I'm finding is like there's a band called Larkin Poe, two girls. One of them plays slide guitar, the other one just plays like electric, and they're both like Rebecca, the sort of lead singer, I guess. Amazing voice. She's a really good guitarist. A slide girl like Megan, amazing guitarist as well. And they are constantly putting videos up on Instagram, like just covers, like just covers of like. Especially things which are like topical, like if it's Dolly Parton's birthday, they'll learn a Dolly Parton song and go, "Oh, this is our happy birthday Dolly Parton thing." So they're always putting stuff on Instagram, and I think that kind of thing fosters a community. Well, that's what I've seen to do so. I don't know. I think I tend to. The depressive part of me is kind of always just like, no one cares.
Yeah.
Like, there isn't anyone listening. Like, so there's that part of your brain which is just like, am I just putting stuff on Instagram and no one is watching it because no one cares? Like, and like it's quite hard to get out of that mentality of sort of the idea of thinking that there's no one out there that's listening or that gives a shit what you're doing, and you're having to just put this stuff out. But I mean, that is kind of how it works. I mean, Cosmo's got like quite a huge online following from just putting his films and his music videos out and all that kind of stuff.
He's a great example, isn't he? He's a perfect example of it.
Yeah, it's content. It's constantly putting out content, I think, is how you do that, because the more stuff you put out there, the more stuff people have to watch, and they'll keep coming back, because if they know you're putting up stuff like all the time, they'll pop up. So, I mean, so I mean, it might even turn into a case of, I might start, because I've got a bunch of covers that I don't really play anymore because I don't really do covers anymore. So what I might just do is just, record versions of them and chuck them up online or something like that. Just as a thing, as just to say, I am doing stuff.
Yeah.
Just not writing. So,
I think that's important, because I think what happens is that like people drop off the radar, don't they? So like when you like a band and you're like really into a band, like you want to like drink in everything that they do, and and as a fan, I mean, I've got loads of things that I'm fans of that they can't make enough stuff. And the more they make, the more I'm involved, and the more I'm in the little world, and like and I think in my head there's so much stuff you could do. It's funny like how your perception of yourself is so different from my perception of how what you do. It's in your head, isn't it? It's like it's 100%, your own enemy, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I am my worst.
And I'm the same. I'm the same for me as well. I'm exactly the same. I understand it. I'm very sympathetic to it. It's a strange human condition of like just not believing. But like I saw you on stage. I saw you at Leo. You were ace at Leo. You were really, really awesome at Leo, and you were really funny at Leo. And I thought you did a great job of like doing all the stuff that you say you're bad at. And it's it's like
I think I've had moments. Definitely, I've had like when I supported James Bay, that was I had an absolute shocker in terms of like my guitar broke because I think I changed the gauge of the strings or something like that, and somehow it was pushing down on the pickup, so it was cracking. But we couldn't work out what it was. At first we thought it was all the pedals and stuff like that, because I think I kicked a pedal and it did it at the same time. So me and the sound engineer spent a bit of time trying to fix that, and I'd already started the set. So the sound engineer was mucking around with stuff, and I was kind of sort of just stood there. And this is just before he got really big. So I mean, the Louisiana was, if it wasn't sold out, it was only like a couple off being sold out. Like the room was pretty full, and I remember, because he wasn't like a massive deal at that point, I wasn't massively nervous. It was just like, I was a big room full of people, but I was like, this is good. And I'd listened to enough of his stuff to think, okay, my stuff will fit with this. It's a guy's playing songs, and I don't know how or why, but for some reason that gig, everything I said in between the songs, everyone found funny. Like it just seems to, like, I wasn't trying to be like I need to be funny. Like I just happened to have a day where I felt really comfortable with chatting to the crowd, largely because everything was going wrong. I think everything the guitar had broken. Like I had this big plan for the set. Like the last song I was going to do was this one with the looping and stuff like that. I couldn't do that because I didn't have the pedal anymore. So it got to the end of the set, and I remember like coming off stage, and it was a really good crowd response. I remember getting off, and this girl was like, "You were really good." And I was like, "Thank you." And she goes, "And I'm not saying that you should stop doing music, but if you do stop doing music, you should be a comedian because you're very..."
That's lovely. How nice is that?
I was like, that's a really nice thing to say. Like, I couldn't, like, because it's situational. Like, I was funny because everything was going wrong. Like, I couldn't go up in front of like people and make them laugh, I don't think. So it's a really weird perception. I've noticed when I've been good at it, but I couldn't like say, that I know how to tap into that every time. No. Like it only happens if I'm just happen to be feeling like that,
comfortable enough to do it, or and I think sometimes it can be like, the first time you say something, it can be all decided on that. If people go like, if people just ignore you or whatever, you just don't you don't build your confidence up, and it's
and I think that's a really difficult place to get. Like the people for me that I think that I find amazing at the stagecraft are the people that manage to turn crowds.
Yes.
Like if I go into a gig and everyone's up for it, more than likely we'll have a good gig.
Yeah.
Like because I want to play, so if they're up for it, this is great. But there are some people that I've seen them go, and like the crowd are like, "Well, we don't care what you're doing." And by the end of it, he's had a meeting out of the palm of their hand. I'm just like, "That was impressive."
Yeah.
Like that's something I definitely can't do. Like if no one's interested in what I'm doing, you might as well just go. Basically, I'm not going to change your mind. Like unless I can musically change your mind. Like, but I can't. Yeah, there's not a lot I'm going to be able to say in between a song that I can think of that's going to make someone change their mind about what I'm doing. But I've seen people drag people in, and that I think is super impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuart Lee for me was one of the masters of it, because he would have the crowd like eating in the palm of his hand, and then he would like throw them away and like piss them off, and then he'd bring them back in again. And, like,
How are you doing that?
How do you do it?
Yeah.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So, if anybody would like to follow you or buy your stuff or see you, where do they need to go to check you out?
Best place would probably be the website, which is www.aarondouglasmusic.co.uk.
Yeah.
That's got links to the Facebook, the SoundCloud. I think it's probably got links to iTunes and all that kind of stuff. Spotify. There's a couple of videos up there as well. I think that's the central hub.
Yeah.
For all the other offshoots of things that people use, because there's a million, and you have to be on all of them now. So
yeah.
So yeah, all the EPs are on Spotify for the moment. So yeah, that's probably the best place to find me.
Yeah, cool. Okay, well, thank you very much. What's your most recent one? Is it
Torches?
Torches
EP. Yeah, that's the most recent one. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, well, check it out. It's on all the places you can buy it, I'd imagine.
It is. Yeah, iTunes, Amazon, MP3, blah blah blah, all that other kind of stuff, and then Spotify and stuff for when you want to get paid 0.00002 pence per play.
Hooray!
Huzzah! Thanks, Spotify.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Aaron. That's excellent. And go and check out his stuff. It's really excellent. This has been the Noise Filter podcast, and we will see you again. Catch you later. Cheerio.